Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be reacting to
The biggest lie I believed about free healthcare.
My friend Chloe just got after giving birth in the US. $52,000. But thankfully, because Chloe spends $700 a month on health insurance, she only had to pay an additional $600. I mean, wow, what a bargain. For most developed countries in the world, this is insane. And to be fair, for many Americans, they also find this insane. My name is Evan Ettinger, and there's this one comment I get all the time on my YouTube channel. I got another variation of it recently, and that goes as follows. Your healthcare isn't free if your taxes are paying for it. I thought this was obvious, just FYI. Now, this comment does come off a little bit snarky, like they've just come up with some realization, a big gotcha, like, oh, you guys probably didn't know. But I actually understand where they're coming from. Why? Well, I was also born and raised in the US, and before I had any understanding of what real free healthcare is like, I would have probably left a comment like this. I mean, like, it's actually paid for in the taxes. But then, after living in a country with actual free healthcare, I started to realize a lot of the lies and things that I was told in school about what it's like in other countries for free healthcare, like, oh, you have queues, or rather lines that go on forever and ever, and you never get treated. Oh, up in Canada, I was always told that if you want to get treated, you just wait in a line forever and ever, and you don't actually get any medicine. So, you don't want the free healthcare. And in the US, I mean, I'm also told, well, it's not really free because they're paying for it in taxes. But I think that that is such a misunderstanding of how free healthcare actually works that I just want to quickly run this down for you. Like I said, I get where this comes from. In America, it feels like nothing is really free these days. You pay your taxes, but that doesn't come with free healthcare. It comes with like military stuff. That's cool, I suppose. So you got to pay for health insurance to pay for the healthcare. But the health insurance doesn't also cover most of the healthcare unless you spend a huge amount on it. And even still, like Chloe spending $700 a month, she still has to pay a copay for something as simple as giving birth. And even then, Chloe told me that might not be the full cost because she can still get a bill in the mail for additional charges for things like holding your baby. This is kind of what Americans have come to expect. So when they hear something like free healthcare, they're going to think, oh, it's because you're probably paying way more than us in taxes. To be honest, we're not. $700 a month for health insurance and that's $600. No, the overwhelming majority of people aren't paying that. And this is probably going to hurt you, but the whole like, oh, well, your taxes are paying for it. A lot of people are getting these services and they're not paying taxes. And that's kind of the benefit of free healthcare as a system. It's socialized healthcare. Oh, please do not sound.
Right. Yeah. The fact that some people are not paying it, majority people are paying for it though, because it is funded by the people. How else are you gonna fund it?
The red alarm, right? The red alert. It's a communist. I just wish people would be like, you know what? I don't want to be communist, sure. But free healthcare? Let me just explain this in a really simple way. By saying that your healthcare isn't free because you pay for it in taxes, you're thinking of it myopically through the lens of your current life situation. Maybe you're middle class, white, you got a pretty good job, and maybe you've got your health insurance and you pay a certain amount in taxes. But what you have to consider is the people that are not in your position. In the UK, if you make under £12,500 or so, you're classed as being below the poverty line. That means you are actually not paying any tax up to £12,000. It's pretty good. Don't pay any tax at all because you're not really in a situation to pay a lot of tax. But let's just say you get hit by a car. Well, you get hit by a car, God forbid, the ambulance picks you up. That's free. You get to the NHS, you might have to wait a bit. Okay, we've been having some issues with the queues recently, so that much is true. It's not the crazy horror stories that you get told, but we've had some periods where you have to wait like 4 or 5 hours to get seen in A&E. No, that's not good. But that person that is earning, let's just say, £11,000 a year, they're not paying taxes and they get treated for free. So no, the healthcare is free for them. That's the type of person that we're considering here. Well, let's talk about America then. There are about 40 million Americans that are currently living below the poverty line. These are people that, if they get in an accident, they would still need to be treated regardless of how much money they have. Now, most people that are living below the poverty line have to rely on charity and charities in order to pay for the expensive medical bills that exist. There are charities that exist in the States that help, but we should not be relying on charity to help these people out. But also the big issue here that also came up when I was
I mean, I get it. He's not wrong where he's coming from. The healthcare needs a fix, but at the same time, they want money. The country's already in debt shitload. Like they're racking up debt. With what money can we now enable free healthcare? Not like free healthcare, but like the taxes cover the healthcare for everybody.
well, the whole point is
It's
that everyone, if you have everyone on a plan, that could bring down the prices. But what's the issue here is that the market hasn't responded to more applicants applying to have a health insurance. Instead, they either maintain the rates or increase their rates or made it difficult to receive coverage. Meanwhile,
no,
there's more people who filed.
but well, I'm saying like it shouldn't be like a health insurance period. It should just be like government pays for the bills period. Like there's no need for insurance companies. There shouldn't be like a for-profit companies running healthcare. That's what I'm saying. Which he's right. Not he, like the Europeans do that better, but it's just you can't flip a switch and make it different, and like it doesn't work. Like there isn't an Like it would be one thing if we weren't in a deficit, but then to kind of get free healthcare, okay, we need to raise taxes like a 1% or whatever. But that would be okay. That's a conversation we can debate. Right now, that 1% wouldn't even make a dent in a deficit. Like I first of all, you need to climb out of the deficit, or at least improve a deficit. Then you can start adding something extra. Because like, what do you cut out? Like, there's nothing to cut out. Now with all the bullshit wars going on in Ukraine and
Well, not cut out, but if you have more people opt in to pay into the system, then the prices should go down.
no, but if it was based on the tax, if the money from the taxes, like if the government paid for it, that's one. Because like you know how we have like Medicare, Medicaid. If we
That's a
had,
drastic. I think that's a drastic switch because that's why I think the option was to just make it affordable than to just switch over completely to make it in free and cover the taxes.
that makes sense because make completely like Europe
Yeah,
has
that's a
it.
big switch.
It's just I don't see like there's so many steps to get to that there's not nowhere near close where it is right now because of the debt and everything, you know. And I mean, to be fair, Europe has it now, but with the birth rates that it's going, are they gonna keep it in 20 years, 30 years?
I
I don't
think
know. Who's gonna pay for it?
I think a lot of it also have to be changed in terms of like our food quality because the overall health of the people it starts with the food, the exercise. So I think regulation will be more stricter on these things to
I
kind of to like have healthier people where they don't necessarily need to go and report to the hospital because of like diabetes, cardio issues, you know.
I think you're on point. If government is paying for it, it comes out of government's pocket. The government is more interested in people being healthier. Right now, people paying out of pocket, so corporations, corporations lobby the government. They are interested in people being unhealthy because that's how they make the money with the insurance and everything.
And the selling of medicines
Yes,
too as well.
medicines. Yeah. So if government was to pay for it, they would be like, okay, we got to cut down, make people healthier. So it starts at the, you start at the ground up, right, the ground zero.
Because to me, it's interesting how in Europe, you pay the taxes. Like if you make a certain level, you pay the taxes, but they focus on, having people walk, what kind of food the people are ingesting. So it's kind of like the people should be kind of, I would think, healthier. I don't know if they are, but I would think they are healthier where they don't necessarily need to actually use these services. But they then say that those offices are full. But then again, I don't know how many hospital spaces you have in Europe as opposed to here in the States to them being full
Right.
because they're just a small amount and there is not a need to have like 100 of them.
I think, like, how do you that's like a question. How do you determine overall health of people? By the longevity, who lives longer? America's is not the longer. There's European countries that live longer, but I do believe there's European countries that live shorter than Americans also. Is that the factor? Then, like, how can you determine, like, by the disease rate, illness rate, like cancer rates? Maybe, because, you know, even like with cancer rates, also feel like certain European countries have more cancer than Americans, certain have less. So it's like country by country going. I think in terms of health, America's kind of like in the middle. It's definitely not healthier than all Europe, but at the same time, it's definitely not unhealthier than all Europe. Certain countries are healthier than others. So like we can't take Europe as a continent and compare. I think it kind of has to go country by country.
In school, the way that the poverty line is like drawn is very deterministic. It's not a sliding scale a lot of times. And so once you make over a certain amount of money in the US, boop, that's it. You lose all access to these charity benefits and things. So if you were working, let's just say 40 hours a week in America at the federal minimum wage, which is insane that it has not gone up in the 13 years since I have left, $7 an hour with some change. Okay, let's say you make that much, you're
How
working 40
much?
hours a week. You do not have any federally
it's the same.
mandated like paid sick days. You do not get any federally mandated holiday pay either. You're working all this time. You earn just about $15,000 a year. That is right around the poverty level. That type of person is working their butt off. They do not have any spare time, and yet, if they do end up needing to go to the hospital, well, how are they going to pay for it? How is someone going to pay for it at $30,000 a year? You have to rely on this insurance system where you're then having to spend all this money. Where are these people getting this money from? The concept of socialized healthcare, the way that it works, the way that I found it to work here, is when I had to go to the hospital, I actually made a video visiting the hospital the first time, I did not have much money to my name. In fact, I was mostly full of student debt. But I was treated, no one asked about my money, I got my prescription, and the prescription cost me about 10 pounds at the time. So at the end of the day, I walked away from that experience going, oh my God, this is how it works? That's insane. I was just so used to having, like, you go into the doctor's office, $75. You got to sign here. And then thankfully my mom, she's got good insurance because she's a teacher. So I can kind of get that thanks to Obamacare. But there's so many hoops you have to go through in
Yeah,
order to
what
get healthcare in the
Obamacare
US.
did was phenomenal because it extended your kids' ability to use your health insurance policy to the age of 28. That was wonderful because a lot of people are expected to, once they graduate from college, to be able to find a job to have healthcare. That's not necessarily the case.
When I get hit by a car, God forbid, I don't want to also be thinking, am I financially ruined as well as physically ruined? That shouldn't be something that we have to go through. This seems like a very basic topic, but I feel like I've gone off topic a bit. The main point here is the lie that people seem to believe in the US is that everyone's paying for it out of their taxes. Not everyone. It's a sliding scale of socialism. If we're looking at what a minimum wage employee is making in the UK who's working full time, they're making about £25,000 a year. Now, that also includes 5.6 weeks of paid holiday, as mandated by the government. So, I mean, at least there's that. But also, hey, this person is actually
That's a lot of holiday, 5.6 weeks. That's like a month and a half, basically. It's a lot of holiday.
having to pay tax. So yeah, they are paying for their healthcare. So that comment is actually right for this person that's making the minimum wage, not the people making less, but still, you're right. You want to go to the GP and get a doctor's appointment? It's free. You get in an accident, you go in, you get treated, you leave. The ambulance doesn't cost £1,000. Doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to call up the insurance provider like you have to do in the States and go, hi, can I please get in this accident? And they're like, actually, no, not on a Sunday. So a lot of new subscribers might not know this, but I've also had a run-in with a US hospital at one point, like 11 years ago, when I fell into a cactus while hiking in the Grand Canyon.
Oh,
$25 a month forever.
That's a great idea.
I know. I do.
It was very painful. I've made a whole video about it. But when I got to the top of the Grand Canyon, my arm and back covered in blood, we headed straight to the nearest hospital so I could get treated, and they told me, sorry, we don't accept your insurance. It's not in network. You've actually got to drive another 45 miles covered in blood in order to get treated. Obviously, that wasn't something I was about to do. I was not in the state to do that.
I thought they were gonna deny him if he needed care if it was emergency.
So it's probably urgent care. I don't think emergency room would deny it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sounds fucked up, but I don't believe they would. I think urgent care though can.
So I just had to accept the 400-pound bill for them to pull the spines out of my arm. That is why a lot of Brits, a lot of Europeans are terrified of visiting the States, and why we have to get crazy insurance, because the system in the US is bonkers. Plus, the fact that all of the insurance companies
There was
have entire
science
sections
in his hand.
Yeah, cactus.
It got inside.
of the business dedicated to making sure that they do not pay out, you know, the entire point of the insurance in the first place. It's a corrupt system. It's awful. And like I said, I feel like most Americans that are roughly my age seem to have picked up on that. When I was younger and I lived in the States, I did not. This was something that I was like, well, it must be the best though, right? Because the US is the greatest country on earth. So it's got the best healthcare. It just is expensive, but also we make more money. So regardless of any of those situations, it's just not a good system. I don't like being a doom and gloom type guy. I just got this comment and it made me really salty. The only thing I really offer here is vote people in office that want socialized healthcare. I can tell you from experience, it is not communism. And if it is, well, it's a good spicy flavor that lets you live and not go bankrupt if you get hit by a car. The fact that when my brother was hit by a car, my mom had to like beg and plead and cry to the woman that hit him not to call an ambulance because we couldn't afford it, that's not a scene that I should have experienced as a child. That's not a scene that any American should experience, or anyone really. The fact that
His brother got hit by a car and his mom begged not to call the ambulance because he couldn't afford it. I mean, the person who hit would end up paying for it, insurance claims and whatnot, but can understand it.
something has happened to your child, and you have to then worry about, oh my God, person that just hit my freaking son. Oh, please don't call the ambulance. I can't afford $1,000. That's insane. That's not a society I want to live in. And I know that some people are going to be like, oh, well, it's the same as like free lunches. I'm sorry. I do not know how you can, in good consciousness, say children don't deserve free lunches. If a child is poor, if a child is rich, if a child is middle class, he didn't choose that. That's literally just roll of the dice. And when I was a kid, we went through a really rough period in which our family qualified for free lunches. If you're gonna tell me, oh, it isn't actually free lunch, it paid for your taxes. No, it literally is a free lunch. As a child, I did nothing wrong. I get my free lunch, I'm not paying anything. My parents aren't paying anything because they're also too poor to pay taxes at the moment. So like, for anything, it is free lunch. Nobody is paying my tax. Well, actually, there it is. There's the big problem. There is taxes. The taxes are paying for it. It's just a socialized system in which people that have way more money are able to support those who don't, at least just a little bit. There seems to be this weird narrative, especially in right-leaning circles in American media, in which they're like, oh, everybody's just looking for handouts. Nobody wants to work anymore. They just want to get paid. No, that's really not what it is. It's just once you understand that there could be a little safety net, there's so much more brain power that can go from the
But there is that too, though. There's a lot of people that don't want to work. They just want to or if they do work, they're just like half-assing it. So there is that too. You
Mm.
can't say that it's not the case, and it's kind of how do you distinguish which one is which?
Yeah, but do you have to distinguish which one is which? Isn't the whole point that you want to protect those who are like very susceptible to falling through the cracks? Like
Anxiety
it's
and
like I don't know. It's like you're focusing on the bad apples, and then the good apples is like, oh, that's just their luck. I don't think that's fair.
I'm not saying it's fair, but you don't want allowing people to abuse the system either,
Mm-hmm.
though.
And I think that there's a process that people should do their jobs and whatnot to check for abuses, but I don't think that means that you don't have the program at all.
stress of the financial burdens that you're under to doing just living life, really, just enjoying your life. And I feel like it would make a lot more sense if maybe, sure, it was expensive and you had insurance in the US, but it was also cheaper. But the fact that Ozempic is 10 times the cost in the US that it is in the UK, it's like $900 a month versus 90, shows you this is a systemic problem on the US
It's
side.
like
This is not like
like for example, I would think you have a policy that you allow students whose parents went to the university to attend to their college. So, two applicants they received this scholarship. One half-asses college, the other one actually works hard and uses the opportunity. Now, should you penalize the one that half-assed it? No, because they qualified for it. The whole point is to qualify. Now, what you do with it, at the end of the day, there is consequences, but doesn't mean that you have to now say, oh, those who qualify for this scholarship, and they have to make sure not to waste the opportunity. We have to be very strict on that. I don't think that's fair. The whole point is, do you qualify? Yes or no? Then move forward.
Mm.
our taxes are paying for that.
Now, if
Making
you
it
want to
cheaper.
have a
No, our
requirement that if you get a GPA that's below the standard, then you should lose it.
I
Okay,
mean, I hear
fine.
what you're saying. Certain scholarships are like
Yeah,
just legacy period, certain
yeah,
are legacy with
yeah.
GPA. I understand what
But
you're
it
saying.
doesn't mean that we shouldn't have it at all just because, oh, someone can not use it correctly. But
Mm.
we say they're not using it correctly.
taxes are only having to pay for that £90 a month or whatever it is. You guys don't have the taxes, and you have to pay more, and the insurances aren't going to cover it. You know what I mean? All right. I never expected to change the way I thought on a lot of things, but this was one of those where once you experience it for an instant, or at least read a little bit more about it, or hopefully learn about it if somebody talks about it that has experienced it, you just change immediately. You can understand, oh my God, this makes so much sense. Imagine trying to use a hammer on a screw, and then someone shows you a screwdriver. You're going to be like, what the? Well, obviously I'm not gonna use a hammer anymore. But in America, they're like, the big screws are putting us down. Everything can be a nail if you just dream. Anyway, I don't want to hammer on this video for too long, but nailed it. At the end of the day, I am earning more money now. And so consequently, I am paying more taxes. I'm okay with that. Obviously, you're like, oh no, the money is going away. But you know, you could also disagree and say like the bureaucracy is awful and there's all these middlemen and there's so much of the money is being wasted. And yet,
Amazing hits the road with a full tank of gas. Amazing starts at CSL Plasma. Donate plasma today and receive up to
some of the money is going to a good cause, specifically when it comes to free healthcare in whatever country you are talking about. That is genuinely a good thing. That is part of a functioning society, and I truly wish that free healthcare, socialized healthcare, whatever you want to call it, is something that every country can at some point develop, because it truly does improve the quality of life, of living so much more. Anyway, that's it. Most developed countries have figured this out a
I
long
think
time
so
ago.
too.
Yeah, but it is gonna be interesting how 20, 30 years down the line Europe is gonna handle this, or not Europe, any country with this birth rates right now, because the young people the working class is paying for it. And if the society is aging and there's going to be more old people that are going to use
Yeah,
these
that helps.
services and they're not paying for it
Oh.
anymore because the kids have to pay for it, and there isn't
I
enough
don't,
kids to
I
pay
don't know.
for it, how would they?
I don't know how many of the because I think when you grow up in a healthy, like for example, if you come from the blue zones and you have a healthy lifestyle, I don't know per se if you will be using these
You
services.
will
But
as you get older. Naturally, the tests, you need to get blood tests
oh,
done more often.
okay.
These are all services. Doesn't mean you're going to be
Oh,
sicker, but you have to get more testing
I don't know
done.
how often that is.
It's like, it's just still, you go to
Oh,
the hospital, and also every issue you experience, like when you're young, you kind of brush it
yeah.
off. When you like 80, you can't, like, I mean, if you don't want to
Mm-hmm.
die, you don't exactly want to brush it off, you want to get it
You
checked
know,
out.
I kind of also
So
expect that technology and the research that we spend, the money to spend in research will help advance that too. So I think it's like we're seeing the future with the eyes that we have now,
Right,
and not the
of course.
possibility of the advancements that are gonna be there in the
Well,
future.
that's
Because things change
that's
in 10
fair.
years.
That's fair, and it might change, but the way it's looking right now is there's going to be a lot of burden on the tax system
Mm-hmm.
and not a lot of taxpayers. And
Mm-hmm.
this is worse than South Korea. Europe is not doing good. Even in America, man, it is aging. We're not at the replacement level. So this population crisis. But here in the States, we don't have like so you're not gonna cut free healthcare because you don't
Yeah.
have it. But like in Europe, free healthcare might be one of those things that has to get cut. Like some sort of social services might have to get, if there's free healthcare, free education, I don't know what. Obviously, before the whole Russia thing, I think they would have cut military spending. But now they're seeing, okay, they can't really because they fucking need it. So you can't cut military spending. What? It, allow more immigrants, maybe that's the solution. Let people coming so they work, generate revenue. Could be the solution. That there, I don't know.
I'm curious to see what the future lies, because I do think that right now we're at a low, but then the next generation could be Boomer Z. Like that would be the age of the boomers, the new boomers.
It could be, but people are becoming more selfish, and they don't want kids because kids is you have to be selfless. But people are becoming more selfish. They don't want kids. They want to live their lives. And if there was no like time
You think
limit,
so? Because I feel like in Europe they have like a right,
right? What
like
right?
in terms of leaning, like
Oh
political leaning.
no, it's more liberal. The European right is like American left.
Mm,
Like
I was
European,
thinking of some other countries, like for example, like Poland.
their right is still American left. Like they're like center. Like American right, like I don't know if there's like that much American right in you. Well, very very little population is like American right, because American right they're like right. Like, but what was I saying? I don't know.
Can I see the comments? Are you finished?
No, listen.
And I'm so sorry to have made this entire video off of one salty comment. It's just because I understand so much of the mindset, because that's how I also used to believe. And if this could change at least one person's mind, well, hopefully it does. But before I wrap this up with a little outro, let me give a quick word of thanks to today's video.
Oh. Yeah, obviously, it would be better if here the free healthcare was free, but I think that's impossible right now. As you said, steps to it, so maybe reduce the cost first step, not making it free, because I just don't see it happening. It's important to know that in the UK you can also go private if you want to, but you don't lose your right to use NHS for free. I've seen so many from the USA who don't seem to understand the concept of freedom of choice. The huge advantage, it is also much cheaper to have a universal system due to economies of scale. No advertising, no profits, no executive shareholders or large admin, which makes a 30% compared to 2% in the UK. Because it's free at the point of people. Like, yeah, like have overall just having a health system with for profit is a problem, because then the doctors push the medicine on you when you go.
Yeah,
They're like, they go ahead.
and it's really the insurance companies, because they want to sell something maybe for $14,000, and then the other option, okay, we can reduce it maybe $7,000. It's still quite high. And the thing is, do you really have a choice? Even when it came to with anesthesia, there was a point where they say, well, we're only gonna cover to a limit,
I remember that. Yeah,
to a
reacted to
limit.
that.
And
Yeah.
it's like, how can you determine what's the limit, especially when the doctor is actively working on the patient? Say, well, I can't go as far as this because this is how far the insurance goes, and I want to get paid.
Yeah, no, the having healthcare is it's just because yeah, as I was saying, the medicine doctors prescribe shit because they get paid per prescription, so it's kind of like affiliate. So every prescription is a sign up. So it's they put you on drugs because they get an affiliate.
Yeah, it's
every,
like they're influencers. They
yeah,
have
like
an
it's like
affiliate
they
link.
legit like
They get
influencers. Oh, click my
commission.
affiliate link in description. That's what it is essentially. They
Yeah.
get a kickback from and it's just a problem. Like that's not.
And that's also partly because they have to pay their debt to their student loan debt to become the doctor in
And
the first
that's
place.
exactly why I say that it's not going to change, because everything is so intertwined that I just don't. I don't see it's change. It's too complicated. Maybe like step
It
by
takes
step
steps. It takes steps. It's
in
not
50
complicated. It
years
takes
maybe it
steps.
will change, but the way it is right now,
It doesn't seem
It's
promising,
it
but it takes steps.
it would take like 20, 30 steps to even get there. It's yeah. I live in the U.S. and I got in a freak baseball accident where the batter swung too hard. The bat flew out of his hands and hit me while I was
Wow.
on deck, breaking my
Wow.
jaw in two places. The people at the hospital were lovely and took such a good care of me. I can honestly say that I would rather get hit in the face again and have to eat through a store for 6 feet than have to deal with the emotional trauma
Of what?
of dealing with the insurance company again.
Oh,
I oh
yeah.
shit, it's a whole
The
fucking
insurance
hour.
it's really the pain of the insurance companies that make the
Mm.
job harder than it has to be in the process.
Mm.
Okay. Guys, of course, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord and always share as much kindness as possible. Bye.